Call to order the August Finance Committee meeting. Everybody hold tight. I got to go through a little paperwork here. Due to the Safer at Home ordinance, all committee members are participating virtually. For virtual meetings, committee members will be muted until asked to be heard. When there's a vote, it will be necessary to take a roll call vote. A committee member will be recognized, raise their hand, and state their vote. All committee members are present. Mayor Pro Tem Adams is present, Mr. McIntosh, Mr. Taylor, and myself. In addition to that, I also see Council Members Scipio and Larson, and the mayor's here as well. So thank everybody for joining us today. We have a full agenda, so we will get going. We'll begin with the consent items. Are there any consent items anyone would want pulled? I don't see any hands. Mr. McIntosh is wiggling his head no. Mr. Taylor, do you have any?
If there's none, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the balance.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the balance of the consent. Is there a second?
Second.
Before I vote, Ms. Adams had one. Ms. Adams?
Yes, I have a question, Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
There are a lot of big ticket items on the consent agenda for particular departments. Do we foresee in the future that we're going to see these type items as we go forward, or is this like the beginning of the fiscal year kind of thing, or what?
Good. Okay, good question. Mr. Rao, are you out there?
Yes, sir.
Could you comment on that?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Chairman Clark, Mayor Joins, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the City Council. So I would say that a number of the items you see here on consent agenda are capital purchases that were approved as part of the 21-22 budget. Also just getting some contracts in place for the beginning of the fiscal year. So I would characterize a number of the items, not all of them, but a number of items to be kind of beginning of the year kind of action items. And we're wanting to kind of move forward with some of these, capital equipment purchases, those types of expenditures.
Okay. Ms. Adams, any other comments? You're muted.
Yeah, Mr. Garrity, as we go forward, could we get to the council as an attachment in categories of the budget of how much money is in these agenda items combined for that particular month ongoing? Because we vote on these, but we don't see them. We solve the budget, but we don't see them in totality, like if public safety has so much in the consent, information systems and that sort of thing, if that would be okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent item. If the city clerk will please poll the committee.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye. Those are approved. We will now go to the general agenda. First off, y'all bear with me a minute. Let me get down here. We have 5 items. The staff has asked for us to pull G3, which is the stadium lease. So we will not discuss G3 this month. Therefore, we will start with G1. Will City Clerk please read that one?
Item G1, presentation of high school senior capstone project.
Let me introduce this. I got approached by a high school student that has a project that he wanted some city participation in. So Mr. Didier, if you're out there somewhere, and Ms. Martin, if you could do whatever you need to do to get him on the screen.
Hi, I'm Caden Didier.
Okay, Caden, if you'll give us your name and address for the record, and then you have the floor.
I'm Caden Didier. I live at 5541 Garden Park Lane in Winston-Salem.
Okay, thank you. We're looking at the first page of your presentation. Do you see that as well?
Yes, sir.
And whenever you needed it forwarded, if you'll just say so, and Ms. Martin will take care of you. Please continue.
If you could move forward with the next slide, please. So I'm doing a presentation or a project called Lids to Benches, but before I discuss that, I'd like to give you guys a little about me section. So who am I? As I stated, I'm Caden Didier and I live at 5541 Garden Park Lane. I am a senior at Forsyth Country Day School. And at Forsyth Country Day School, I am president of the Garden Club and Recycling Club. Within Garden Club, I help with campus beautification, but I also grow produce in our school garden and donate that produce to Samaritan Ministries to fight hunger within Winston-Salem. Along with that, I am Vice President of Judicial Board and Vice President of Special Olympics, and I am a two-sport varsity athlete for cross country and lacrosse. So what made me start this project? This is my senior capstone project, and I really wanted to do something to help give back to my community of Winston-Salem that has given so much to me. And I also wanted to help educate people on what to recycle, what not to recycle, and just recycling in general. So my passion is the environment. I consider myself to be an environmentalist, and I wanted to do a project that could help promote sustainability and, as I said, recycling. And this goes along with my future college plans. I want to major in environmental science and help do sustainability work throughout the US and other countries. So goals for my project, Lids to Benches. My first goal is to gather 500 pounds so I can make 2 benches to put in the Winston-Salem parks. If you go to the next slide, please. So a bit of program information. I'm partnering with Green Tree Plastics in Evansville, Indiana, and they turn plastic caps and lids into park benches. So what I need to do is collect the acceptable plastic caps and lids, weigh, sort, and bag those lids, make an appointment with Green Tree Plastics to drop off the caps and lids and order the benches. So once that is all done, I will deliver the caps and lids to the facility and bring home park benches for our parks. If you could go to the next slide, please. So this is an image of what the benches look like up close. They're plastic and they can be multicolored. And as I said, I would like to put them in the Winston-Salem parks. Next slide, please. So in order to create one 8-foot bench, it takes 250 pounds of plastic caps and lids plus a fee, and that creates one bench. A picture of the benches are on the left, and that is a picture of them at high school. If you go to the next slide, please. So this is the acceptable caps and lid list that I've printed off and put around local businesses that I've partnered with. Along with that, many other members that are collecting to help me out with my project have this acceptable lid list so they know what can be used and what can't be. If you go to the next slide, please. So what have I done so far with this project? So starting off with social media, I've created both Instagram and Facebook pages that have amassed 700 plus followers. And on those pages, I do a weekly tradition known as Weighing Wednesday, where I take a video of me weighing the total amount of plastic caps and lids I've collected from the previous week, and I post it so all my followers and people who have been collecting and helping for me can see how many pounds that we've gotten the previous week. So along with that, I have a lot of community support through local businesses and Winston-Salem residents. I have 32 bin locations for collections, so local businesses can collect themselves, and they can be drop-off sites for residents who are shopping local. And along with that, I pick up from residents they'll either text, call, email me, and I just pick up plastic caps and lids that they're donating to my project. So through 6 weeks, I've received 157 pounds of plastic caps and lids through donations. And I am also talking with a few local publications. Forsyth Family, they're putting me in their September issue. The Winston-Salem Journal has reached out, and I'm also in discussion with WXII. If you go to the next slide, please. So the funding needed, I'm looking to purchase the 8-foot bench with a back, item code D309, and I'm considered a children's group, so they cost $300. If you go to the next slide, please. And what I'm asking from the finance committee is funding for 2 8-foot benches. The total cost is $600. if we want to keep the benches the gray color, but it's additional $50 to $75 per bench for color options. If you have any, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you, and let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions from anyone? Ms. Scipio?
Thank you. I think this is a fascinating project, and thank you for initiating it. I just would like to ask one thing that, and I'll be willing to help you with this, is that I would love to have a dialogue with Glenn High School and Winston-Salem Prep High School that's in the East Ward, and to see if we can get a student from each to help you with that, or a group of students at each school. I think it's a fascinating project, and I really want us to do it collaboratively across, well, at least in the East Ward, to bring people in so that we can have a real success. So that's, I'd love for you to entertain that thought. And if you think that's okay, get back with me and I'll get you to hook up with those two schools. Because I think it's a marvelous thing that young people have your creative ideas, and that it's a way to really unify the community as well as protect our environment. So I'm really excited about it. But that was the comment I wanted to make. And so I'm just one curious question. You do the pounds of lids plus a fee for the bench. And is the fee that you're asking for that's the fee you're asking the city to support? The
Yes.
$600. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Didier, I'll get you Ms. Scipio's contact information. I think that's a very good idea.
Thank you.
Mr. McIntosh, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to compliment Mr. Didier on the effort. Great cause. I'm sure the act of trying to organize people and get folks to work together has been very educational. The fact that with the publicity that you'll get from people watching this meeting, that you will be overrun with caps from the general public. There'll be thousands of people looking to get involved. But no, thank you very much for what you're doing, and it seems like it's going to be a great success.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Okay. Mr. Didier, I'm going to forward this to Mr. Rao, who's our assistant city manager, and I think we can find some money somewhere in the budget for you. So you just start collecting the caps, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is G2. If the city clerk will please read that.
Item G2, Emergency Rental Assistance Program Update.
Bear with me just a minute. Ms. Newman, are you out there somewhere?
Yes, sir, I am.
You have the floor, and thank you for this update. If you could just give us a couple of minute presentation on it.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Chairman Clark, members of the committee, members of the council, and the mayor joins. For the record, Marla Newman, Community Development Director. And just a few brief stats. Of course, we started the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, also known as ERAP, on April 5th of this year. And that program allowed $6,730,523 that would be direct assistance out of the total award to the city of $7,478,359. So 10% of that $7 million was set aside for administrative costs to pay our third-party vendor, our licensing for the application software, and the like. Since the program's inception, you see a set of numbers here. Of course, this tells you the numbers as of this past Thursday, August 5th. What I'd like to do is have you hold that in front of you and give you the real-time numbers as of this afternoon, because these numbers actually change, and we're doing pretty good with getting our dollars out. So I want you to have the latest information. So as of this afternoon, we have approved 974 applications. We now have 650 applications that have been submitted and are pending assignment to an eligibility specialist. We have now 674 applications that are currently under review, and we denied a total of 153 applications. In terms of total funds dispersed or pending disbursement, we are now at $3,879,239, $284, or 42% of the amount that's set aside for rental and utility assistance. The Treasury guidelines have a minimum threshold of expending 65% of the award by the end of September. We will meet that with no trouble, and we are actually expecting that we will be closer to the 85 to 90% range by then, if not at 100%. But we should be able, by the end of September or not very long thereafter, to actually start to allocate our ERAP $2. So we're making progress, and we expect that, again, we will be able to assist a great number more of households before this program is over.
Any questions or comments from anyone? Ms. Adams.
Yes, thank you, Chair Clark. Ms. Newman, want to thank you and your staff for all the work you've been doing for the past, not just since April. You guys have been double duty since this virus hit last year in March, whether it was COVID funds, money, community development block for homelessness, and everything else. Could you give the council and committee and the listening audience a short snapshot of the collaboration that it has taken and it takes to do what we are doing along with our other partners, and even kind of let them know how sometimes maybe we've never worked well with others, but we all learning now in this new world to work well with others. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So we actually issued an RFP as a joint venture in the beginning of the year to collaborate with Forsyth County Department of Social Services, or DSS. And with that arrangement, we kind of had a split of duties, where the city would underwrite the cost of the third-party vendor, as well as the cost of the application software and all of the user licenses for a year. And so in exchange, the county agreed to provide what we call the back office services. So they would do some quality control monitoring, as well as cutting the checks and processing the payments to all of the vendors, be they landlords, utility providers, and in necessary situations, direct payments to tenants. In addition, they were to hire 3 temp staff to be kind of like the on the ground faces to accept applications for those persons who are unable to manage technology and the computer, or may have had limitations regarding internet service and the like. And so that was the arrangement that we've made, so that we're each kind of bringing something of value to the table. We've learned, as Mayor Pro Tem Adams says, to work in collaboration. We basically called ourselves bringing our strengths to the collaboration. Again, the city with payment, and the relationship with Neighborly, which is the application software. Cities use Neighborly for a few years now. So we were bringing those strengths and experiences to the table. And because DSS is already in the direct service business, because of the various types of social services they provide and benefit programs, we figured that them bringing that to the table was a good way for us to play to our strengths. And so we meet twice a week and project management meetings, and then we have other meetings throughout as needed. So it's been a labor of love, but we're getting there, and I think we have some good days ahead of us.
Thank you. Ms. Scipio.
Thank you, Ms. Newman. I'm so happy to hear how well the program's going. I just have 3 questions. One, and this can be provided at another time, what's the average amount of support that we're getting? Of all of the people who receive, what's the average amount of that support? In your estimation, are we really making a dent on the people who need it? And are there more people out there who need it? that aren't coming forth for some reason. And then my final question is, what are the main reasons for denial of those who did not get it?
Certainly. So I'll start with the last one first. There are two main reasons for denial usually. One is their over income. So their income is above 80% of area median income. The other that we're finding is that people are not able to show an actual COVID impact, or that the challenges that they're experiencing have a direct relationship to COVID. Those tend to be the largest reasons for denial. We do believe that there are a number of people out here who still need help, and we have a number of applications that are actually in progress but have not been submitted. And that number tells us there's a lot of needs still out here. Those individuals just have not gone through completing the entire application and hit the submit button. And we have well over 600 or 700 of those in that queue alone outside of what's already pending. According to, I just opened up our neighborly software program, it looks as though the average funding amount that we're providing is $4,422 per household. So we're tracking all of the expenditures that we're making, and it shows right now that in terms of applications that actually go through the process, we're actually showing an acceptance rate of 82.2%. So most of the folks who come through get funding support.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Adams, I may have cut you off before you were finished. Did you have another comment?
Yeah,
Thank you,
Go ahead.
Chair. I wanted Ms. Newman, if she could, to tell us how are other cities in the Triad faring so far as the Triad, dispensing their money, as well as maybe our sister county next door, Guilford.
Yes, ma'am. So I'll start with Guilford. They have expended a great deal of their funds. I believe between Guilford and the city of Greensboro, they are either on the cusp of or have already started expending their ERAP $2. One of the significant differences is Guilford County already had an emergency rental assistance program prior to the Treasury award. So they already had infrastructure in place. So it was just a matter of them refilling their coffers and continuing on with the program they had, maybe making a few tweaks to be in alignment with the Treasury regulations. Of course, the city of Greensboro had to create a brand new program, much like we did. But the other difference, though, with us is those programs, and I think because, again, there was experience and history in Guilford County, those programs saw more of a rush of applications when the doors opened than we did. We were slow to catch on for reasons that we're still a little baffled about, quite honestly, because our marketing department did a yeoman's job of getting the word out from radio, TV, print, social media, and then even contracted with a community business to go door to door, hanging door hangers, going to certain places of business where people frequent to get the word out. So not 100% clear why our applications started as slowly as they did, but we did notice that the closer we got to the first moratorium deadline, and then certainly the second one for July 31st, we started to see an uptick. And that has not abated since it started, like mid-June is when we actually started to see that increase. Like I mentioned, we have spent approximately 58% of our dollars. Forsyth County is somewhere around 22 to 24%. So we have far outpaced the county in terms of the number of applications that have come in from city residents that we've been able to support. So we're continuing to monitor the numbers for both of our programs because there are implications, of course, by September 30th, if you don't hit that 65% threshold. Again, we will clearly make it. Probably by next week, we'll be at 65%, if not the end of this week. Did I answer your questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
Go back to your comment on the counties. Everyone that lives in the city also lives in the county. It's one of my pet peeves.
Mm-hmm.
If we run out of money, can someone who lives in the city and the county use the county money?
So that would possibly be a point of conversation, but I tend not to
think that that will happen because we got separate, distinct allocations. And the allocations were for a geographic area. The way the money came for the county was for all of those communities and jurisdictions outside the city limits of Winston-Salem. Now, the county has received a round of ERAP money through the state that is for the city and county, but that's a separate allocation that came after the one we're currently working. And so in that instance, then all could be served by that particular pot of money.
Okay, because I just got my property tax bill on my home, and there was a line for the city taxes and a line for the county taxes. So I do pay both as everyone else does. Anyway, thank you. Mr. Mundy.
One more thing, Chair Clark.
Yeah.
Ms. Newman, how many different initiatives or buckets of money are out there besides what the feds gave to the county and the city for emergency rental and assistance and utilities?
So, of course, the city used a portion of our CARES Act money for mortgage and utility assistance. And that was a program that you all approved and an expenditure you all approved that we called RUMA, Rent, Utility, Mortgage, and Assistance. The predominant amount of that money, though, we targeted to mortgages because we knew other monies were coming for rental assistance. Some has been used for rental assistance and utility assistance, but the majority of that for mortgages. The county did not have anything to address mortgages, just the city. So you have ERAP 1, then you have ERAP 2, and then you have the ERAP allocation that the county has received from the state, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $16 million. That was
HOPE?
No, that's separate from HOPE.
That's another bucket.
That's another bucket that was run by the state. So that is out there as well. And then, of course, we know that there are other monies coming. For instance, there's additional home dollars coming from HUD as a part of the Coronavirus Relief Fund. Then, of course, we know about ARPA. And then now with the new infrastructure bill, there's money in that bill that is also going towards housing. So there are a lot of different pots, but those that are specifically targeted towards rental assistance, HOPE, ERAP 1, ERAP 2, and the state ERAP. And then we also use some of our CARES Act money for homeless prevention through the Emergency Services Grant, the CV funds for that. We use some of that for prevention of homelessness as well. And some of those could be used to cover for, rental deposits and the first 2 months of rent. So we've also been able to use some other CARES Act money to affect the rental situation as well.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mundy.
I want to echo everyone's thoughts of appreciation for all you all have done to help folks in need. And it never ceases to amaze me how many hats you wear, Ms. Newman. Every time I turn around, someone says, call Marla and she'll help you. And you always do. Thank you for that. Help me understand ERAP 2. Have we started spending that? I know it looks like our total was 6.7 million basically. Is that ERAP 1?
That is ERAP 1. ERAP 2 is $5,917,275. We have not tapped that yet. We're going to clear out ERAP 1 and then roll into ERAP 2. ERAP 2, the requirements are a little less stringent than ERAP 1. One being that you just simply have to show that you were impacted during COVID. Not that there was a direct COVID relationship, but that you suffered some kind of economic harm during the period of the pandemic. So that will make it a lot easier for some people to get assistance who might be otherwise challenged because they are unable to show a direct COVID impact. It'll still have to be a new impact that you encountered during the pandemic, right? As opposed to something that was pre-existing. So for instance, we've had some individuals who may have applied and they may say, well, I had cancer at such and such a point in time. And then eventually I got to the point where I couldn't pay my rent during the pandemic. Well, that was not a COVID impact, right? So we had situations like that. So some of the requirements won't seem to be quite as stringent as ERAP 1. I think that was one of the lessons that Treasury heard from the community, was the difficulty in tying that actual COVID impact to the need.
Just a follow-up question. Did we know about ERAP 2 when ERAP 1 came out? I'm trying to figure out. I seem to have missed the boat on knowing about ERAP 2. So were they all announced at the same time?
No, ERAP 2 just kind of appeared, for lack of a better way of describing it, about April or so. Right around the time we were rolling out ERAP 1, we received word that there was an ERAP 2 and another allocation. So it just came to us unsolicited, and we were just notified, and we had a really quick turnaround time to sign the documents and yes, we'll take it, and send them back to Washington. So yeah, it was just something that just came to us.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Newman. That was most helpful and very encouraging, and keep moving forward.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. G3 has been pulled. We will now go to, and I'm going to talk about G4 and 5. While they're different items, they're essentially the same issue. G4 has to do with the medical insurance we provide the employees, and G5 has to do with the dental insurance, but it's the same issue we're talking about here. So if the city clerk will please read G4.
Item G4, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Cigna to administer the city's self-funded health insurance plan.
Mr. Rao, would you please introduce this to us?
Yes, sir, Chairman Clark. So I'm going to recognize our Human Resources Director, Dr. Marcus Barnett, who'll present both G4 and G5. As you know, the G4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager into a contract with Cigna to administer our self-funded health insurance plans. Dr. Barnett.
Okay.
Good evening, Chairman Clark and members of the committee and members of the City Council. I am here this evening to talk to you about two different items, both our health and our dental plans, which are self-funded. If we can go to the next slide. So the bid review panel for this bid process included myself, Lisa Saunders, who's the Chief Financial Officer for the city, Kimberly Ewing, who's the Deputy HR Director, and Tamisha Branch, who's my Senior HR Analyst overseeing the benefits team. Slide. We received 5 responses to this bid proposal that we put out there. And actually we had to do 2 bids for this. We ended up receiving 5 bids that came from Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, who's the incumbent contract holder, Cigna, MedCost, and United Healthcare. Slide. The locked criterion that exists, that's the MWBE, so Minority and Women Business Enterprise Commitment, and the business location. These were the ones that are scored by the city's purchasing department when the bids come into us. And so you'll see the scores here for each of the proposers. Slide. The other criterion that were more subjective, that were voted on or that were tallied and scored by the members of the committee include cost effectiveness, qualifications and experience, the reference list, and the proposal quality. Slide. So the total cost, and I won't go through each one of these, but the total cost for each of these plans are what we looked at. You'll see at the bottom that we were looking at savings this year. Most of those savings were coming from pharmacy rebates or from other rebates that were provided. But what we really focused most of our energy on is that top line that you see, which is the annual administrative fee. So that administration fee is how much the provider is actually charging us to administer administer the plan. As you all know, we are a self-funded plan, so we are paying the full amount of the claim as it comes through and as it hits. But after, on top of paying that, we have to pay someone to administer the claims. And so we were looking mostly in terms of the administrative fee. And so you'll see here, Cigna in the middle is the provider that we are recommending that we choose. And a big part of that reason is the administration fee, and that equates to about $35.36 per member per month. Slide. So after we did the total assessment and we went through all of the proposals and we had finalist meetings, Cigna came out on top with 400 points out of a potential 500. The next proposer was Aetna at 325 points, followed by United with 235, Blue Cross Blue Shield with 200, and MedCost with 142.5. So I'll go to the next slide to discuss dental, or would the chair prefer that we stop here and discuss medical before moving on to dental? Okay. All right. So on dental, we received 6 bids, and the bids there came from Aetna, Emeritus, Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, Cigna, MetLife, and United Healthcare. Slide. So this will involve a little bit of a plan change. Right now, our current plan is a reimbursement plan. So the employee pays for the amount of the services, and then they await reimbursement. They have to use their personal funds for that, and they can use any dentist that they want to go to. So us making that change over from a reimbursement plan over to a PPO, which is a preferred provider organization. So that's going to put us into a network. And that network of dentists is going to operate at a negotiated rate for their services, but the employee can also go to a non-network dentist and pay whatever the out-of-network rate, pay the difference between the out-of-network rate. So the biggest plan change here, the employee will actually be able to use their flexible spending account dollars while they're at the dentist. The way that the current plan is set up, it does not allow for that, but under this new type of plan, employees will be able to swipe that flexible spending account card when they're at the dentist, and the plan will pay versus an employee have to pay anything out of pocket above their own requirement and be reimbursed. Slide. And same thing here, we have the locked criterion. So you can see all of the scores for the locked criterion here. Slide. And then the other criterion that we looked at, and you'll look and see at cost effectiveness, we were really looking more at the providers that offered the best fee for total services. And so, slide. We had 2 who came in right on par with one another at 300 points, and that was Cigna and Delta Dental. Following that, we had United at 280 points. MetLife at 275, Aetna at 270, Blue Cross at 240, and then Emeritus at 185. So, slide. We picked these 3 finalists and we stacked them against one another. So total claims and fees, with us implementing a network, we're looking at projected costs, right? We look at MetLife, which came in at 1.3 million, Cigna, which came in at 1.1, and then Delta Dental, which came in at 988,000, which represented about a 25.8% decrease in the overall cost that we're currently paying. Slide. Staff's recommendation is that we do a medical and dental combined contract with Cigna. The total savings right now, as it's written, represents more than a $4.5 million savings for the city. It will provide for ease of access for employees and enhanced coordination of their benefits, having the same provider for both medical and dental. And it'll also give access to a quality provider network. And that is the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions or comments, Ms. Scipio?
Yes, thank you for that presentation, Dr. Burnett. I had just a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
although Blue Cross and Blue Shield has presence here in our city, they did not seem to get any points for location. Is that because you're really relying on their headquarters or their headquarters from where they would be serving us?
No, ma'am. Through the bidding process, the proposers are required to submit some information. A big part of that information, I believe, is information on payroll taxes, where they're paying payroll taxes, where their staff is located, et cetera. And the information that came in from Blue Cross Blue Shield in both the bid and the rebid did not include any information. And so we couldn't grade them, or the purchasing department could not assess them those points because it wasn't included in their proposal.
Okay, thank you.
I would comment that Ms. Adams and I, as the chair and vice chair of the Finance Committee, serve on an ad hoc health insurance committee, for lack of a better term, and we review probably yearly or so. So she and I did have a chance to review this as well. Mr. Mundy.
Thank you. This would be for calendar year. Is that right, Dr. Barnett?
That is correct.
Okay.
I believe the way that the resolution is written, it is requesting that we enter into a 3-year contract. We did receive a 3-year rate guarantee.
Okay, so here's my question with regard to the budget. Did the existing budget recognize any of this 4.5% annual cost savings, which would result in 2.25 million per, it'd be 2.25 million in the remainder of our fiscal year?
So in coming up with that number, that is actually a question that Mr. Rao asked when I put the presentation together. In coming up with that number, I did go back and look at essentially what is in the budget, what we're on track to spend right now. So that number is inclusive of essentially what is being spent or what we project to spend between, between July 1 of this year and December 31st of next year into the last 2 quarters of this fiscal year. So that'll be January through June of 2022.
So I'm not sure I understood that answer.
Okay.
There will or will not be a cost savings to the budget for this current year's budget if we implement this in January of 2022.
Yes, there will be, or at least projected there should be.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. We do need a motion. Oh, Ms. Adams, excuse me, go ahead.
I'll go ahead and make the motion, Chair Clark. I move that we accept the resolution of Cigna as the administrator for healthcare and dental services for the city.
Okay.
Second, McIntosh.
Okay. We actually, Ms. Adams and Mr. McIntosh have made a motion and a second for both G4 and G5, so we will vote on them separately. If the city clerk will please poll the committee for G4, which is the health insurance portion of this.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye. If the city clerk will now poll the committee for G5, which is the proposal for the dental program, since we've already got a motion in a second.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye. Those are both approved. Ms. Adams.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I do have a comment.
Go ahead.
This was not an easy decision to make. I applaud staff, the team that reviewed all of the applications and the bids. I know that we have relationships with some of the other providers, but as I expressed to Councilmember Clark and the members of the ad hoc health committee, that I think our job is always to make sure we do due diligence for the taxpayers and as the employees of the city of Winston-Salem. It's one thing to save money, but it's also a bigger thing to make sure that we are taking care of our employees. Over my 12 years of being on the council, we made, and Councilmember Clark knows, we made changes along the way, Mr. Rao and Ms. Saunders and others, when it comes to healthcare with the city of Winston-Salem. We offer health care to our temporary employees, which a lot of cities don't do. But one of the things that I think I used to hear the most concerns about, and I can say personally too, is when you go to use that FSA card and you can't use it. You're putting your money in it every week out of your check or whatever, but you can't use it when you're at the dentist or the doctor or anything like that. And I thought that for employees that are only making, or even at the time, making less than $10 an hour or $15 an hour, and you go to the dentist and they tell you that in order for them to do whatever root canal, they also got to do X. And you got to now leave the office because you can't pay for it, because there's not that money, that excess, income that you can just dispense at any time for these big ticket health issues. So I think going forward, as we continue to look at healthcare policy and healthcare providers, that there will always be changes in this area because of the nature of our country and the importance of healthcare, but the importance of healthcare at an affordable cost for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for the committee. It is 5:17. Mr. Taylor, your committee, I think, convenes at 6 o'clock.
Right, that's correct.
So with that, I thank everyone for attending today, and we are adjourned.